War on education and smart people has actually paid off for Republicans. According to a new poll, a majority of them believe that colleges and universities are now having a negative impact on the country. So what they're saying is that literally education and educated people are the problem. Now, let me get you to the numbers here. The Pew Research Center poll finds that 58% of Republicans and Republican-leaning independents think colleges and universities actually hurt the country, while only 36% of Republicans think that they have a positive effect. When you look at the American public overall, over half the country, 55%, think colleges and universities help the United States. Just over half.
Mm-hmm.
That's... Look, man, I'm going to come out and say it. There's a war on smart people. Actually, there's been a war on smart people. This is not a new issue. I've not just realized this. This has been going on for quite a long time, but now it's really, really, really bearing fruit, especially since we had the election of the stupidest person, I think, to have ever been president of the United States, Donald Trump.
But I think George W. might be dumber.
Oh,
I think George W.
I don't know, man.
Just as a human, I think he might be dumber.
I don't know.
I think
that's a tough question.
Donald Trump at least has some skill. I mean, Donald Trump is very good at PR manipulation. He's very good at that.
But skill doesn't actually mean smarts.
True, but did George W. Bush have any skills or smart?
No.
And don't say his paint by numbers career, Jeff, because that's bullshit. His paintings suck.
They do.
We both know his paintings are bullshit. So yeah, I mean, that's all I'm saying. I mean, it's a race to the bottom.
It really
I'm
is.
just saying. And should it really surprise us that the party that loves to deny climate change hates higher education, or the party that, and you know, I mean, even the and you know, I'm not saying that the Democrats are perfect. I mean, God knows I'm not saying that. Anyone that's been watching the show so far knows that. But it is statistically true that the lower the voter turnout, the better Republicans do. That's is statistically
true.
And, you know, usually civic engagement and education kind of go hand in hand.
Well, you realize...
not all the time. Some of the most civically engaged people I know never went to college, you know, just because they went a different route. Some of the smartest people I know never went to college.
Sure, true.
I also know a lot of brilliant people that have PhDs and everything in between. You know, so I'm certainly not trying to make a mass generalization or say that you know, one size fits all.
No.
But you know, a lot of the time it's you know, when you go to college and you get exposed to new ideas, maybe you learn a thing or two about how the system works that you didn't know prior. You're more likely to go out and vote when you see a lot of other students on campus that are excited about issues, that are passing out pamphlets, which still happens on college campuses. Mm-hmm. I would know. I performed there. You know, you're more encouraged to go out and vote. So yeah, and then of course the right in general, which is not limited to Republicans, but the right in general has a very significant anti-intellectual bent. I mean, they kind of thrive on that stuff. Sometimes they disguise it as elitism, or they like to point the finger at elitism. They say that that's what it is, and sometimes there's a point with that, but other times it's just anti-intellectualism. And that just goes on the right as a whole, because I mean, so much of their framework is based on fear. Which is in many ways anti-intellectual just on its own. It's based on xenophobia, which is incredibly, you know, I mean, that's lowest common denominator.
Yeah, they can't even figure out that we're all the same.
Right. I mean, so, you know, yeah, this should not be surprising. What's interesting is that there were 27% of Democrats that also, you know, think that higher education is bad, and I guess maybe it depends on how the question was phrased, because student loan debt is bad. Some of the structural issues in higher education is bad. If somebody said to me, "Is there a problem with the structure of higher education?" I would say yes, because I would interpret that question as in, do we need to change the way we do things now? And the answer is yes. We need to eliminate student loan debt. We need to, put forth programs for free college. I do firmly believe in that. I am a very strong supporter in free college. A very strong supporter in looking into different ways on how to do that, including a pay-it-forward model similar to Australia. That wouldn't be fair for everybody, and it really wouldn't be fair for people like you or I, Jeff. But you know what? It would be for the betterment of society, and we would all benefit from it in the long run. So I'd be willing to do it, and I hope other people would too. So yeah, I mean, if
I don't
the
think they asked
question
that.
I know. I'm just saying, like, maybe there was some ambiguity there. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. A lot of the people that rail against something like higher education, and some people do it for the wrong reasons. Some people do it because they know of the debt they're going to be facing. Well, that's not the problem. Doesn't lie with your professor. The problem doesn't lie with the idea of bettering yourself through higher education or higher education itself. The problem lies with the system that's in place.
Yeah. And look, this has gone political. I mean, they have basically tried to convince the population that no. See, these colleges, these universities are nothing more than factories to create liberals. Really? Mm-hmm. Well, that's a strange idea. Oh, hey, you know what the best idea, the best way to fight that is? Conservatives, Republicans, why don't you go to college? Maybe you could outnumber us.
Right. There you go.
Go ahead. I mean, we challenge you. We dare you to go get an education.
And you know what, man? I'm a little like, because they say like, oh, there's this huge liberal bias in higher education. Go to a business school.
I had a very, very conservative economics professor. Railed against Obama every time in class.
I mean, I had an accounting professor that was like, I mean, he was disgustingly pro-Bush right in the classroom. I mean, it made me sick. Like, I wrote about it on my evaluation where I'm like, dude, you're allowed to have your opinion, but, I mean, you really shoved it down our throats. You know, Andy was kind of a dick. But, I mean, go to a business school, go to an economics. I mean, and there's a lot of lefty economics people too. I mean, in a business school, you're kind of going to see. I would say it's going to be about 90-10 right to not right. Right wing,
and that's fine actually.
And that's
because I don't have a problem with
the nature of it. That's the nature of it. You know, you go to the philosophy department, it might be a little different. Generally, that's more left-leaning people. I mean, so you can't really say all A or B in higher education. It depends on what you're doing. It depends on where you're at. So, like, this whole, like, oh, there's this big liberal bias. Like, I don't think there is. And I think people like David Horowitz that have nothing better to do than demonize these professors are just bored people looking for any niche they can find to try to sell books. I remember when I was in college, Jeff, I remember the day after Bush won, I happened to be going through the business school for something. I think I was taking some kind of, it might have been my accounting class actually. And everybody was in the hall celebrating except for me. And I was in all black. I was pissed off. Everybody celebrating, giving high fives. And I'm like, this is disgusting. I see this one girl standing in the corner crying, and I'm like, oh, that's a drag. Then I looked a little closer, and I was like, oh, shit, I better go over there. It was my girlfriend at the time.
Oh,
who was also, yeah. So the only other person like that was in the business school sad, other than me, was my girlfriend at the time. And I went over to her, and I was like, hey, this sucks. Let's go out to dinner tonight, do something nice, and, try to ignore all these assholes celebrating around us who weren't assholes. They were just our fellow students that we saw things differently then. But
yeah, look, I don't have an issue like with anybody that has a different belief system than me. I think you should be able to go to school and whatever your ideas. Your ideas are wrong, at least in my opinion, and backed up by a lot of facts. But hey, you know what? God bless. Have your different opinions. Fantastic. And it's. This is the whole thing, though. The thing that struck me and the thing that's sad about this is that 55% of Americans, only 55% think getting an education is a good thing. I mean, that number should be a lot higher. Because it's all about trying to better yourself and trying to know things. What's wrong with knowing things, with learning things? And I'll never understand why, you know, there's a specific side that thinks, no, we don't want to know things. I know why the you know, politicians, and I know why the pundits are doing it. I know why they're railing against education. But I don't understand why the average person who listens to those people says, yeah, education, not good. Learning things, bad. Why? Why would you ever have, are you afraid it's going to turn you liberal? Like it's a disease? No, not necessarily. So it blows my mind. And I can't wrap my brain around people who look at education and go, no thanks, not for me.
I'm with you.
And it's not even about college education. It's just about learning things. It's about having some sort of intellectual curiosity about the world. And I see so many people that unfortunately they don't have that anymore. And I'll never understand. I could not live my life like that, not having any sort of intellectual curiosity about anything. It's, for me, I consider, you know, not learning. If you're not learning something new every day, it's stagnation. And to me, that's actually worse than death, is not learning anything.
Amen. I'm with you, man.
So that's why this poll, it just depresses me. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYT Nation.